So I was working this morning on a combination of my baseball stuff and the Catholic stuff. And my mom came into the room crying. She's worried about me. She has Alzheimer's disease, and she was kind of slowly, and now it's kind of like increasingly rapidly slipping away. And she's getting worried about me. And, she wants me to have a life and wants to ensure that I have a life after she's gone. And she doesn't understand why I keep at the Catholic stuff. So I had to explain to her what I want to explain in this video, which is, to her and to everyone, and to my kids and to everyone. The reason I keep at it with the Catholic stuff is because the job isn't done. What happened in the 70s, the late 70s and the early 80s with Sister Helen, and I know my principal, Sister Helen, and I know this happened with Sister Helen because I talked to her about it. She told me what happened. Monsignor Flavin gave her an order to leave it alone, to stop worrying about Father Valentine, and Sister Helen followed that order. Yes, she was just following orders, but as we learned in the aftermath of the Second World War, just following orders is no defense. It's the defense used by the Nazis, but it's no defense in terms of ethics and in terms of the law. It's kind of an established standard. Just following orders is not an appropriate standard, because you do not have to follow an illegal, immoral, unethical order. Even in the military, you don't have to obey an illegal order. And the problem is, to stick with the World War II analogy, the problem is what happened in the Catholic Church is the equivalent of the Allies, not only the Allies not doing the denazification process, but the Allies stopping at the border of Germany. Instead of driving all the way to Berlin and completely, totally eradicating the Nazis, what if at the end of World War II, or in World War II, the Allies had instead stopped at the borders of Germany? They pushed the Germans back to Germany, but then just stopped and said, no, we're not going any farther. We've done our job. Germany's out of France and Belgium and the Soviet Union and Poland. Everybody's free. The Germans are out. The Germans are done. So we're done. What would have happened in that case? Well, I think anybody who knows history knows that nothing good would have happened, because Hitler still would have been alive. And all that Hitler would have done is he would have regrouped. He would have regrouped, and he would have started a third world war. You can see that happening with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is still fighting. He's still spreading the lies. People are getting wiser to it and are resisting it, thank God. But you can see it in the behavior of Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who lost to Joe Biden, hasn't just gone away. Instead, Donald Trump has continued to fight. Just as Adolf Hitler would have continued to fight had the German army not been completely dismantled and devastated by the Allies. And the problem with the Catholic Church, the reason why the job isn't done, is that really the critical moment is 2002 with Spotlight and what happened in the Dallas Charter. What happened was the Catholic Church was allowed to put in place what was really just a PR effort, a false contrition. The Dallas Charter, by and large, was a sham, as the actions of Bishop Sticca in Knoxville and the seminary in Wojciech Sobczak prove. The Dallas Charter, by and large, was a sham. It was a PR exercise. The thing that the Dallas Charter accomplished was it protected kids from people who, by and large, were not a threat to them anyway, from their grandparents. Maybe there was some problem with coaches, and maybe some potential problem with coaches was averted because of the Dallas Charter. But the fact is that the problems in the Catholic Church sex abuse crisis was not a Catholic coaches sex abuse crisis. It was a problem of priests. It was not predator coaches or predator grandparents or predator helpers in the classroom. It was predator priests. And what happened was the Catholic Church was allowed to declare itself fixed. There was no external oversight. Any external oversight was a sham. And so the hierarchy did the bare minimum. They did a bunch of razzle-dazzle. They did a lot of PR stuff. They tried to convince people that they were sorry, but they didn't actually change anything. In 2018, when the Cardinal McCarrick stuff came out, they realized they needed a sacrificial lamb, so they sacrificed Cardinal McCarrick. But again, that was simply a PR exercise. That wasn't a serious act of contrition by the Catholic Church. That was a holding action. That was an attempt to give the mobs and the masses something to keep them from pressing the attack. And unfortunately it worked. And I was part of the problem. I didn't understand the nature or the magnitude of the problem. I didn't even understand my own issues in 2002 in the aftermath of Spotlight. It wasn't until 2007 that I really started to get sick. So it wasn't until 2011 that I understood what happened to me. So some of this is on me, that I didn't force the pressing of the attack, but I'm wiser now. I understand what happened now. And the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing in St. Louis, on Twitter, in Knoxville, and everywhere is because I refuse to repeat the mistakes of the 70s, of 2002, of the Dallas Charter, of Vos Estis. I will not stop until the job is done, until every last Catholic child is safe and protected. This to me is a war, and that's the analogy that I use with my mom. This is like going off to war. War is terrible. War is horrible. But sometimes wars have to be fought. Yes, it would have been better. Lives would have been saved if the Allies hadn't pressed the attack upon reaching the borders of Germany. But the Allies had to press the attack, enter Germany, completely eradicate the German army, completely eradicate the Nazi Party in particular. That was the only way to ensure that people were going to be safe, was if the Nazi Party in particular was completely eradicated, if the process of denazification was completed, not just undertaken, that it didn't stop short. They had to press the attack. They had to finish the job. That was not what happened in the 70s, in the 80s. The attack was not pressed. Instead, Sister Helen and all the people of that era just said, okay, well, I've been ordered not to do anything. Let's, hopefully kids will be okay. They'll probably be okay, and if they're not, and if the abuse isn't prevented, maybe abuse isn't that big deal. Hopefully abuse isn't that big of a deal. Well, as I and we know, abuse is a big deal. So just hoping that the problem will go away is not acceptable. This isn't, let's learn the lessons of 2002 and the Dallas Charter. The job wasn't finished. Instead, the Catholic Church, and in particular the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, was allowed to police itself. And history shows us people and organizations, especially really wicked, nasty, evil people and organizations, even though they say they're continuing the work of Jesus Christ on earth, they will not hold themselves accountable. They're not good at accountability. As a result, we had the Dallas Charter, which by and large was a fraud, which didn't fix the root cause of the problem. The Dallas Charter doesn't hold accountable priests and seminarians. That's still up to bishops and archbishops. It's at the discretion of bishops and archbishops, which is what was established, proven by the case of the seminarian Wojciech Sobczak in Knoxville. The Catholic Church needs an ultimate, final, complete reckoning in terms of the sex abuse crisis. A final, complete, thorough exposure of the evil of the Catholic sex abuse crisis, which includes the revealing of the actions of people like my friend the Cardinal. You know, the very threat of the Catholic Church is proven by the existence, by the treatment of my friend the Cardinal, a man who at least knew of at least some of what was happening to me and to us at Immaculata. And instead of being punished for that, he instead was rewarded. So people who could see and turn a blind eye to the sexual abuse of children at Immaculata in the 1970s, like my friend the Cardinal did, not only weren't punished, not only were rewarded for their loyalty, for their willingness and ability to keep their mouth shut, they are the ones who are running the Catholic Church. And remember, my friend the Cardinal is a potential future pope. That's a terrifying prospect, and it's one of the reasons why I am continuing to do the work that I'm doing. That's unacceptable that my friend the Cardinal could still be in that much power and have that much influence in the Catholic Church after what he did and what he did not do at Immaculata. The job isn't done. I won't stop working, or at least talking and telling the truth, until the job is done. Until every single survivor is helped. Until every single member of the hierarchy of the Catholic Church who was complicit is held accountable. And I have to assume that that includes all the popes, including Pope Francis. You may be a fan of Pope Francis. I know the reality of Pope Francis because of Vos Estis Lux Mundi, his, again, sham Bill of Rights for survivors, code of conduct for bishops and archbishops. The Catholic Church, by and large, their response to the sex abuse crisis is PR and lies. They're not sorry. If they were sorry, they would do something. The hierarchy of the Catholic Church has gotten too much from the sex abuse crisis. It's given them too much in the way of status and power, and they're not going to relinquish that. Evil men do not simply relinquish their power. Instead, they need to be exposed and thrown out of office, which is what I and we are trying to do. And I'm not going to stop doing it, talking about the reality of things until the job is done. This is a war. Wars must be finished. If wars aren't finished, if evil isn't eradicated, then evil will resurface, as history has shown. This is a holy war. This is Jesus Christ working through people to reclaim his church, emboldening people. And if Jesus Christ can do what he did, entering Jerusalem on Palm Sunday to a certain and known fate, then you and I and we can do this.